Hello there and welcome to 10 killer questions to close more sales. What we found over many years of researching with our customers is there are two critical improvements you can make to your sales process through simply asking phenomenal as opposed to simply great or good questions. Number one, your customers will respect you more and judge you more based on the quality of your questions. And number two, knowledge, of course, in sales is power. The more phenomenal your questions, the more killer your questions, the more chances are that you're going to convert more sales with less need to overcome objections or worse still, having to discount. So what we've done right now is identified 10 killer questions for you that we'd like you to write down and use on a regular basis. In some cases, we'll come straight out with the killer question. In other questions, the actual killer question is the secondary question. So the world has just changed in 2020 in many ways that most of us did not predict. A simple question to ask your customers are, what is your current business situation? Very simple question, gets them talking. The killer follow-up question is, and what about your personal situation? People will be way more open and honest when it comes to answering their personal setup and their personal situation, thus giving you a really deep understanding about who they are, what motivates them, and often understanding what is their why for getting out of bed in the morning. Number two, what is keeping you up at night? Now that question really cuts to the chase in terms of understanding not just all of the wants and needs of your customer, but what is the number one challenge or issue that is absolutely driving their short-term behavior. What is really motivating them? Often it will be a pain that they're trying to avoid moving forward. And of course, when it comes to that second question, it is not one you can start the conversation with. Number three, what are your short-term goals or what are your short-term aims? Very easy warm-up question. And then comes the killer question. And what is your long-term vision? Now, whether that's asking them about their team, about their business, about this particular project, if you can get yourself aligned to the long-term vision, the long-term goals they're aiming at, you're far more likely to convert the sale right now because you're solving a longer-term issue. Number four, what are your company values? Again, a very easy warm-up question. It's always nerve-wracking for me if I ask someone that question, they haven't a clue what the answer to that question is. But if they can answer the first question, here comes the killer question. And how strongly do you live by those values? Now, the beauty and power in that question is, if they say we staunchly live by those core values, then you simply need to do what we reference in the Sales Mastery Program as essentially concept-based selling, where you sell to the overall mission or the overall values that they're trying to adhere to. If, however, they turn around and go, well, we don't live to them too strongly, then you can ask a very simple follow-up question. What if we could help you align better to your core values? Most people in a purchasing decision or in a managerial decision-making position knows they need to align to core values if they're simply trying to keep their job long-term and to keep their team aligned to their long-term vision of the overall business. Number five, how are you measured in your position? Just like the what's keeping you up at night, this is a fantastic way to understand how someone is motivated. As we know, for many industries and for many sectors, especially of late, job security is king. And knowing how someone is measured is going to give you an inside running to understand how they're likely to make decisions and likewise what decisions they're likely to avoid. Number six, what budget are you working to? Very simple warm-up question. Here comes the killer question. And what made you set that budget? Or based on what did you set that budget? It's the understanding of the why they set the budget that they've set, which will give you a better understanding about how flexible they're going to be or how inflexible they're going to be, and also how confident they are to stick rigidly to the preset budget. Now, of course, one of my favorite questions to ask to follow up on the budget question, classic killer question, is what have you done in the past when you had to alter or amend a budget when presented with a better solution? That'll give them an experiential response. It gets them to think back to, actually, you know what? Sometimes we have been flexible when presented with a superior solution. Oh yes, and they'll start talking themselves into being more flexible with your solution, assuming, of course, it is superior. Number eight, who else is impacted by this project or who else is impacted by this decision? Easy question. And then, of course, the killer question. And what would they like to see? That starts to create peer-to-peer pressure from them to other peers within their organization, as opposed to simply between you and them. It gets them to realize, crikey, if I make the wrong decision here, other people are going to really be upset with me, and they might pressure me to make the right decision right now. Number 9, what timeline are you working to? Very simple question. And then of course the follow-up question. And what would happen if you experience delays? The beauty about that killer question that follows up is about creating some degree of urgency around their decision making and the implementation of that decision. Especially if there's uncertainty in the marketplace right now, you need to start to get some leverage over them so that when you're in front of them, you're starting to encourage them to make quicker decisions, so you've got security of reaching your sales targets and they've got security of getting access to the products and the services they deserve. And then finally, number 10 of your killer questions: what made you reach out to us in the first place? And if they didn't reach out to you, the alternative to that question is, what made you accept today's meeting? The beauty about that is it's forcing them to essentially accept that whoever is their current survivor or current supplier isn't the one they're going to stick to long term, because they are intrigued as to alternatives in the marketplace. Now, I strongly recommend you practice these killer questions as often as you can. And without using word for word our languaging, it is the topics that we've shared with you that makes these truly killer questions. I've been Ambrose Burfield from the Sales Mastery Company. Now put them into action.